Welcome to the Uncle Jim Effect podcast. My name is Dennis DeLoach, and I'm going to be your host. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen and participate, and welcome. I hope this has a lot of value for you. I'm extremely excited about today's episode. First, let me teaser alert here and have an announcement. Next Tuesday, whatever you do, do not miss that episode. That's going to be my first guest that I've had on this podcast. A lot of you will know who this person is. And this person epitomizes everything I've talked about, which is overcoming adversity, living and finding what your God-given potential is, creating a tsunami of hope for people, and maximizing that which the Lord's given you and influencing others for good. So I promise you it will be worth the time you spend with us, and that'll be next Tuesday. So first thing I want to do is ask you, if you like this podcast, would you please take the time to hit the like button, leave a comment, and then please subscribe to the channel so that we can continue to do this. It's sure been a lot of fun, and I'm getting so much positive feedback. We're going to continue going forward. And I really appreciate some of the kind words that I've heard about the influence it's had on you or family or your friends. So continue to do that, please. If you have any questions, stories, comments, other than leaving them there at the comment section, you can email us at deloach, which is DELOACH, podcast at gmail.com. That's deloach podcast at gmail.com. Please let your friends and family know about this podcast, and let's try to work together to build some momentum to create a tsunami of hope. Again, as we talked a little bit before about 10xing our goals, that's a 10x goal, to actually think that we could create a tsunami of hope for people in this time when we sure as heck need hope in our lives. I also want to say that this is the Friday before we enter Thanksgiving week, and I just want to wish everyone out there a happy Thanksgiving. Take a moment and please think about all of the things that you have had happen in your life over this past year, even the small things that you can express gratitude for. My list is so long it'd take me 12 podcasts to do that, but I'm so grateful for everything in my life. We've unfortunately had a friend of ours that passed away, a tragic drowning, happened a few weeks ago. And you just never know. He was young, he was in his early 50s, and just a wonderful guy. In fact, we're going to that funeral later today, but you just never know what's happening. We're not guaranteed much, if any, extra time other than the next heartbeat. So I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for everything that I have. And I would challenge you to express gratitude next week, even if it's hard for you to do. So, all right, let's get into this Friday Focus. Our Friday Focus videos, so you know, typically tend to be a little shorter. We're going to focus on one specific characteristic or point that's been especially beneficial to me, or something that I've learned over time. I also want to start this podcast by saying, to me, it's so important to understand that who am I to be sitting here talking to you about anything? And that was the name of my first episode, Who Am I? And so I want to address that, because I'm by far and away probably the least guy expert on anything we're talking about here. But I do feel the calling or desire to share with you those issues and concerns and obstacles and lessons that I've learned in my life that took me a long time, with a lot of headache and heartache and financial loss and stress and all of that. And if what I talk to you about can shorten that learning curve for you, that is a tremendous amount of value that I would be creating for you and that people have done for me in my past life. So don't let anybody tell you that you don't have the ability to speak on something, as long as you're trying to do it for the benefit of others and to help us and to teach us lessons that you've learned to help us avoid those kind of pitfalls. So I just wanted to start that out by saying I don't take this lightly. I'm by no means an expert. All I'm doing is sharing with you what lessons have worked for me in my life, and I hope they work for you in yours. So, again, today we're going to talk about individual accountability. And what is individual accountability? Basically, it's taking responsibility for one's actions, decisions, and outcomes. And I like this part, regardless of external circumstances or challenges. Taking responsibility for actions, decisions, and outcomes, regardless of external circumstances or challenges. Wow, that leads us directly into excuses. Excuses are the greatest inhibitor of accountability, and we all have them. We're all full of excuses. I've used them my whole life for so many things, but excuses get in the way. One of the first things I learned as a CEO of a multiple location dental corporation or group was that I had a mentor tell me that 99.9% of the time when there is a problem in your company, it is your issue as the CEO. And I took offense to that at first, and I thought, well, you just don't understand. I'm here, and these people coming in aren't doing the things I ask, or we're not getting responses on marketing. And as I evolved and became more humble in that role, and I learned through these mistakes that took me a long time, I found out that that's absolutely true. And so what I tried to develop at that point was the ability to say in any issue that was brought to my attention or any obstacle that I saw we had to overcome, I stepped back instead of trying to blame somebody and said, okay, in my accountability, what is it I could have done better to help prevent that situation? And I thought that did a couple of things for me. One, it focused the energy on me and what I control, which is all I can do anyway. And it also kept me away from pointing the finger of blame at somebody, getting me out of the mindset of how do I solve this and into how can I assess blame to them so that it's not my fault. A quote that I love, and it was said by one of the greatest coaches of all time, John Wooden, who was a basketball coach at UCLA and won a lot of national championships and is generally considered one of the greatest philosophers and coaches of all time, said accountability is the key to unlocking our potential. Think about that for a second, because there's three key words in that quote. Accountability is the key. So the main criteria to accountability is that's the key to unlocking our potential. And so unlocking, I like that word because that means that we've got that God-given potential inside of us. And that's what we've been talking about all along with this podcast, is how do we unlock that God-given potential inside of us? And so Coach Wooden is telling us that accountability is the key to unlocking our potential. And so again, we know that potentially we can do anything that we can dream or set our mind to and be willing to pay the price to accomplish. I love that. The key to unlocking our potential is to be accountable, to not blame other people, to not look outside of any issue that pops up, even if there are some good reasons for it. The key is to look inside of ourselves and to be accountable. Several years ago, I had the opportunity and privilege to attend a leadership meeting with some pretty high-level people and had the opportunity to be invited to sit at dinner in a group of 8 people with Jack Welch. Jack is probably regarded as the greatest CEO of all time. He was the CEO for General Electric, and if you have never heard of him, or if you're interested in leadership, management, specifically improving performance, motivating people, growing people, leadership, Jack Welch is a phenomenal resource to go to. And I got to sit at this table for about an hour and a half and listen to him talk. And so he asked each one of us, do you have a question you'd like to ask me? And I was fortunate to go towards the beginning. And I basically said, what is the trait or characteristic you think has created the most success for you now at this point that you would go back and tell your young self, this is the thing I would focus on the most? And he said without hesitation, and I love this, it's just four words, and it says make and meet commitments. Make and meet commitments. So make commitments in your life. And commitments can be anything from in business, having metrics, commitments to perform. It can be in sports. It can be in our personal growth and development. It can be as a parent. It can be in our health. It can be in our finances. Make commitments. We have to have something we're striving for and growing towards and fighting for. So make commitments and then meet commitments. And that implies a source of accountability that says, hey, you can't just speak those words. You have to meet those commitments. And meeting commitments means following through, actually tracking what it is you're saying. And I've mentioned before, a good friend of mine and a mentor and a guy that I love is Tom Shays, a great friend of mine and a Navy SEAL. And he's basically said in his life, he's got two rules. Those two rules are honor the words that come out of your mouth or make commitments. And the second rule is never quit, never give up. And that is to meet commitments. So making commitments or honoring words that come out of our mouth and meet the commitments or never quit until we accomplish them is the key thought for some of the best people that have been some of the excelled the most in their professions throughout the world. Jack in the CEO world and Tom in the being a Navy SEAL in the world of physical accomplishment. Those two are probably at the top of their game and throughout the whole world. So I wanted to share with you throughout my career as both a dentist, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a coach, as a high-level CEO, as all of those things. I spent some time and assessed what are the real lessons I've learned, and going back, what are the things that I would want to know? And so that's what I'm going to share with you. And I've come up with 7 areas. I'm sure you've got some that I'm not going to cover, but generally speaking, these are 7 areas of accountability or lessons that I've learned. And I want to make sure that I articulate those to you and spend a little bit of time with those. The first one, I've already mentioned it. So the number one is, the first one is it starts and ends with me, right? So accountability means I am accountable for whatever it is we are talking about, period. Again, if we go back to that initial thought we talked about, it's that we're accountable for the actions and results regardless of external circumstances or challenges. Yeah, but you don't understand. I had this. Yeah, but you don't understand this. Regardless of external circumstances or challenges, it starts and ends with me. Maybe I should have looked into possible challenges popping up that I couldn't foresee and have a game plan for that. I know the Navy SEALs are experts at that basically they know, and same with coaching, when we have a game plan, it's great for about one play until we show up, and then things are going to change. And so remember on Tuesday, I told you that, spoiler alert, this guest I've got coming on is going to basically define and be such a tremendous example and learning opportunity for you in this area of where it starts and ends with me. So that's number one. Number two, and we've talked about this in the last podcast, the second lesson that I've learned to accountability is to keep score. How are we held accountable if I don't know what I'm keeping score on? So if I commit as a leader that I'm going to do A, B, and C, I have to be able to track or measure what A, B, and C are, or it's not truly a goal, right? So whatever area of life we're talking about, whether it's our health, money, family, business, sports, performance, growth and development, we have to be able to measure a goal that we set, and part of accountability to whether I'm on track or off track to meeting that goal is to keep score so that I know where I'm at, right? So that's number 2. The third lesson I've learned about accountability in my life, and again, we talked about that in a previous podcast, is to be intentional in everything you do with your energy, your time, your finances, your resources. So whatever we do, to be accountable, I have to be intentional with all the actions I do. I have to take charge and say, today I'm doing these things that I'm accountable for, and I'm not going to sit back and let people walk in my office and take my time. I'm not going to sit back and let the phone ring. I'm not going to be checking emails periodically. I'm not going to be scrolling through social media. I'm not going to do all those things. I'm going to set time aside, and I'm going to be very intentional with my time if I want to be held accountable. So that's number 3. The fourth lesson I've learned in my life on accountability is you have to learn from all the mistakes around you, not just from the mistakes you make, but try to learn from the mistakes that other people make. We talked about that in the past as well. And so you also need to give yourself grace. It is okay to make mistakes. I know some people in sports and in business that basically play or perform to not make a mistake and to not lose. And that is not the way I think you can create the most success or the most value for yourself and for those you serve. I think we have to go for it, give it everything we've got, and be able to sit back and look and say, wow, I gave it everything I had. It didn't work out, but what did I learn from that? Regroup, refocus, learn your lessons, give yourself grace, step back, and do it again, right? So that to me is one of the key points, is so many people are so afraid to make mistakes that they tiptoe through life and they're not living a 10x life. Step back, dream big, and say, I'm giving myself grace. This is new to me. I'm expanding my horizons. I'm going to stumble and fall. It's not falling that is the issue. It's always getting up one more time than when you fall. So that was number 4. The 5th lesson I've learned in my life in accountability is accountability partners. And we've spoken about that in the past as well. A lot of these principles and concepts we talk about over and over until we master them. And it's basically accountability partners are people to hold you accountable, whether it's a mentor, a coach, a mastermind group. I love mastermind groups where you get leaders and thought providers from different areas, not necessarily in your industry. And you get together once a month for a short amount of time and you talk, because what works in one industry generally will work in another. You just have to extrapolate the principle and apply it in your industry. One of the most overlooked ways to have an accountability partner is to find a trusted friend. And by trusted friend, I specifically mean someone that will be brutally honest with you. And by brutally honest, I mean they will sit there and tell you, you're doing wonderful, but I see that you're falling short here. And you have to be able to take that criticism, and you have to be able to understand that their only goal is to help you become a better person. Now that takes a lot of guts on that in as a friend when you get asked to please be honest with me and give me feedback. So absolutely pick that friend that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt is absolutely going to speak their mind and be honest with you, and then value that and apply that in your life. So that is number 5. The 6th lesson I've learned in my life that's helped me improve my accountability is to be consistent. Just so you know, there are always eyes on you as a leader. Anytime you declare that you're going to try to attempt a 10x goal, anytime you declare that I'm going to move outside of the the group or the crowd to do something extraordinary, anytime you decide to better yourself, anytime you decide to do something out of your comfort zone, you're going to have naysayers. You're going to have people not wanting you to leave the group because they feel uncomfortable. So realize that you're going to have eyes on you. So when you say, I'm going to do these things, you might not see them, but people are watching. And actions speak louder than words. People are waiting for you to fail. Unfortunately, that is an issue with humans, that misery loves company. And when we try to improve ourselves and do things, other people that are not comfortable with that don't want you to do it, because that will reflect on them, are going to wait and hope and anticipate the fall. Or if you're a leader in a sports team, a family, a business, whatever it might be, you lead by example. So if I talk in a meeting about things and I'm not living them outside that meeting, I have zero credibility. That's been one of the big lessons I've learned in life as a CEO and a leader and a coach, is accountability. As a high school football coach, and I've done that for a long time as a hobby, I love that because I'm working with young men and get to hopefully influence them in their lives. And I knew that I was being looked at by them. And so there were things that I did, because my goal was always to win football and to compete and to outcompete the other team and to win. But I also knew at that stage of the game, and as this being a hobby, that I was trying to grow and create young men that were warriors. They were going to be great husbands, great fathers, great leaders, and great protectors in our society. And so I knew that they were watching me outside of football, and I knew that they were watching me when I was in a heated situation. I knew they were watching me, how I interacted with people in stressful situations. And just know that there are people watching all the time, and that's okay. It will make us perform better. And finally, the seventh lesson I've learned in accountability, and this probably is the icing on the cake, is we cannot procrastinate or put off until tomorrow. There's a great quote here that I like, and I want to share with you. It says, God has promised forgiveness to your repentance, but he has not promised tomorrow to your procrastination. Isn't that true? And I hate to brag, but I'm probably one of the best procrastinators on the planet. I think I've improved over the years, but I could have competed with any of you out there on the ability to procrastinate. And what a shame and what a tremendous amount of lost life I had, because I kept thinking, I'll plan it today and I'll really do it tomorrow. And that never happens. As you go back and look at my first podcast, there are so many technical things wrong in the background and that, but I knew that if I did not hit the start button, that I was not going to do it. And so before I was ready, I basically hit that start button and I started. And so I challenge you, whatever it is in your life, to take a full accounting of what you need to hit that start button right now, and then worry about fixing it later or improving it or getting it corrected after you start. But the first most critical step we ever take is the first one. It does not have to be perfect. We do not have to be perfectly situated to start. Get after it, hit the start button, work it out along the way. The greatest race ever run in life is one step at a time. And that's an old cliche, but it's so true. Let me recount for you. And as we improve this podcast, speaking of that, we're hiring a team to help us with graphics and all of that. And so we'll be able to list these things that we talk about. But let me review the 7 lessons of accountability I've learned in my life. Is number 1, it starts and ends with me. Number 2, keep score. Know where you're at along the way with the commitments you've made. Number 3, be intentional with your time, your energy, finances, resources, everything you do. plan it out to utilize that. Number 4, learn from your mistakes and the mistakes of others. Give yourself grace and know that you're going to improve. Number 5, have accountability partners that will be honest with you and help you improve as a leader. None of us are born with these skills. We all have to develop them. We need people that will be honest with us. Number 6, be consistent. Realize that there are people watching you and they're waiting on you to not be consistent. Be disciplined, be consistent, and realize actions speak louder than words. And finally, number 7 is do not procrastinate. So on that note, I'm going to challenge you right now. There has been a thought come to your mind of something, some goal, some dream, some person you need to talk to, something you need to do in life. Do not procrastinate. I go back to that friend of ours that tragically passed away. We are not given anything, and we do not know what is in the next minute. So I challenge you to do not procrastinate. Know that I am here as a resource. Reach out again to that email at deloachpodcast@gmail.com. Please like and subscribe to our button. We are excited to also be in the near future moving also to the audio podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, all of those things that we'll be on, and I'll let you know about that. Do not miss our next episode on Tuesday. My guest is fantastic, and I love this person. They've influenced me. They've empowered me. They've motivated me, and I'm a lot better person, tremendously better because of my interactions with them. I'm bringing them to you, and I know that you will be better as well. Thank you again so much for being here. Let's get after it. Let's create a tsunami of hope. And until Tuesday, we'll see you. Keep getting after it. Thank you.